With us now, California Democratic Senator Alex Padilla, the Harris Campaign National Advisory Board member. Senator, it's always a pleasure to see you. I thank you for your time. You just heard what the Vice President said about immigration and the border last night, including what she said, removing those who arrive here unlawfully. Is this a change or a fine-tuning for the Vice President?
It's not a change, Jose. First of all, good to be back with you in this all-important home stretch before the election. Look, I think Kamala Harris and Democrats have been clear about our desire to modernize our immigration system overall. And yes, to address the number of people who have come to the southern border in recent years. It's a comprehensive approach that includes engaging with our partners throughout the hemisphere. It's one that includes justice for dreamers and farm workers and other long-term residents of the United States. But if anybody out there is wondering where Democrats stand on wanting a secure, orderly, and humane border, she's trying to address exactly that, including, as she mentioned, giving the Border Patrol the resources they need to do their job. We saw two things. When Donald Trump was president, he starved the department and the agencies of resources. And when we had a bipartisan deal on the table in the Senate just a few months ago, he killed it. He called Republican members to kill that bill because he's more interested in immigration as a political issue than actually solving problems and helping people.
Yeah, that border bill, which, by the way, you did not support and you voted against, and you would, I presume, continue voting against it, has, among other things, the mandate that the wall has to be built at the border. It changes in many ways how asylum is considered in the United States. I'm just wondering, Senator, and I'm so, there are so few people like you that are clearly talk about the difference between immigration and the border and asylum. And it's just, I'm wondering, Senator, is there not more to be said about how one looks at those different, overlapping in some ways, issues of national importance?
No, absolutely. Look, a lot of the issues that we deal with at the federal level are much more complex than you can convey in a tweet or in a soundbite, immigration being among the most complex. So it's important to distinguish between the people wanting to come to the United States, seeking asylum or for whatever other reason, and those who have been here for many years, in some cases decades. It's one of the reasons why we were amplifying the Forward.us report that came out late last week to talk about exactly who and how many people would be impacted by Trump's promise to begin this mass deportation if he's elected president. Imagine 1 in 3 Latinos in the United States, either personally or someone in their household, living under that threat, what that would do for families, what that would do to communities, what that would do to the economy. It's important to understand those details. And as far as the asylum system goes, people come here for a number of reasons. A lot of people fleeing persecution, fleeing for their lives, literally. It's important to allow them to apply for asylum and then give them a yes or a no within a matter of weeks or months, not wait years and years and years, as is currently the case. And for people coming maybe for economic opportunity, let's revisit the work visa categories and pair people wanting to work with employers who need workers. Let's keep our economy growing. There's wins that are possible. This is the kind of thoughtfulness presented by Kamala Harris. What we hear from Donald Trump and Republicans is anything but. It's detention, it's deportation, it's hate. I mean, you saw the energy, the vitriol coming out of his rally on Sunday night that he has refused to denounce. It's a continuation from his very first campaign that he launched by attacking Mexicans. Most recently, it's Puerto Ricans, and it's been a whole lot of people in between in the years in between.
I mean, you don't need me to tell you that among the things that he, the former president, has been speaking on the trail about is how immigrants poison the blood of the United States. I mean, that's just a fact of the kind of discourse that we're hearing. Senator, just two quick, if I could, questions for you. What is it that your message is to the people that you represent and that you work so hard for. And I'm talking about DACA recipients, and I'm talking about the millions of people who lived in mixed immigration status households that don't hear themselves reflected in any conversation when, for example, the main focus is that border bill.
Yeah. Look, I have the honor, as you know, Jose, to represent the 40 million people of California. And I say everybody because California, more than any other states, knows the value of our diversity, including our immigrant population, its contribution to the strength of our state and our economy. And we want to unleash nationally what we've been able to unleash here in the state of California. Californians and a lot of California activists and advocates know Kamala Harris, you know, for her talk about the borders, to address that question for the people who still may be wondering. But she's the first to remind us that we need to be thoughtful, we need to be humane, we need to be smart, and we cannot leave the millions of dreamers and farm workers and so many other essential workers that we depend on out of this conversation. The organizations and organizers in California know it. We've been deploying throughout the country to talk to our counterparts why it's important to elect Kamala Harris president of the United States and restore Democratic majorities in both houses to Congress so we can finally move on with a thoughtful, smart modernization of our immigration system.
And what do you think the vice president accomplished last night in her closing statement? What do you think is the most important things that people should take away from that speech?
Right. I thought her address was beautiful and truly the Kamala that I've come to know for over the last 20 years. The contrast couldn't be clearer. You look at Trump and his allies, it's division, it's grievance, it's attacks. You look at Kamala Harris and our team, it is hope, it is optimism, it is the call for unity. Even when we don't agree on every single thing, we have an obligation to work together to improve lives and help people. That's what public service is all about. This is not Jerry Springer WWE entertainment. Public service is serious business. And Kamala Harris is absolutely much better qualified than Donald Trump. Donald Trump isn't even qualified to hold any office in this country.